All right, welcome back again to the Network Depot podcast. I'm Matt, again joined with Christopher Boyd here. We have a bunch of questions today that we've been asked a lot about, especially me. I'm really on the front lines here at Network Depot, talking to prospective clients. Lots of questions about CMMC. As we all know, November 10th, it is now officially mandatory for any contract in the DoD that has CUI rolled into it. You need to be CMMC level 1 compliant. So, bunch of questions today. Let's start about getting CMMC certified. Chris, talk to us about the steps. How does somebody do that? They want to bid on this contract. CUI is involved. They need CMMC level 1 compliance. How does a company go from not compliant to compliant? And what does the MSP play a role there?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question. How do I become compliant? Start from A, work myself to Z. What's in the middle? And I kind of broke it down into 5 steps. The first step is, honestly, you should be talking to your MSP. Most of these 110 controls are extremely technical. And so the people responsible for managing your IT are likely, the first people that you should talk to. So I would recommend talking to your MSP. The second step would be an assessment. The third step would be remediation of the POAM, like kind of getting yourself to the point where you're ready for the audit. The fourth step is the audit. And the fifth step is, okay, now that I'm certified, what do I do to stay compliant? Those are the 5 steps that I think are kind of soup to nuts in the CMMC journey. And so I think today I want to focus on kind of breaking down each one and spend some time hovering on it and how to kind of take yourself through it.
Cool. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. Yeah. So that first step is, there's a little self-serving. We are an MSP and a lot of our clients are government contractors. And most of those government contractors need CMMC compliance. So this is usually, their first phone calls to us. Our clients call us and say, hey, what's up, Network Depot? I need this. How do I get it? And so that should be your first phone call. So pick up the phone, write your account manager, whoever your rep is at your MSP, shoot them a note, say, I need this compliance. Where should I start?
Mm-hmm.
There's only 2 answers they're going to give you. Either one is, okay, tight, we've done this before. This is our program. We'll kind of make the introductions along the way and shepherd you through this. Or, the deer in the headlights. I don't know what CMMC is. I've never done this. I'm not sure. I was kind of dreading this phone call.
Which I think that's probably most companies out there right now. What is this? We've heard about it. The can's been kicked down the road 5 years in a row.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you get the latter, if you get an MSP who, and listen, like, this is nothing. I love the MSP industry. I've been in it for going on my 14th year. I have a lot of love for the industry. And I made a lot of friends over the years, but most MSPs are small mom and pop shops.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's fine. And they probably deliver really great service. You probably have very good relationships with them. However, if they can't get you compliant, well, then you have kind of outgrown them, haven't you? I mean, and that's not necessarily a bad, like, speaking from the MSP owner perspective, that's not necessarily a bad thing when your client has outgrown you. Okay. Because what that means is you have defined your own limits. You have found those limits, and that allows you to focus on your core business. And if your core business isn't supporting government contractors, then honestly, I would peel it away. It's not my core business. And if I try to concentrate on it and it's not my core business, then it's taken away from my core business.
Yeah.
Therefore, my other clients are suffering. So it's really like, it's one of the most natural evolutions both parties could make, the client and the MSP, to define what your core business is and put that limit to, the test.
I think it might be worth touching on just really briefly here, the difference between an MSP that can get and keep a client compliant and an MSP that cannot. We've taken a couple clients this year from MSPs that just frankly can't do it. And it's not a bad thing. It's just their business is, like you said, it's built around a different target market.
Yep.
Let's talk real quick about the difference between the two. So us, I guess, or businesses, MSPs that can get and keep a client compliant, and an MSP that cannot, and what you should expect to see from both going down.
Sure. So, I mean, just like visualize an MSP who has a bunch of clients who are government contractors who currently are CMMC compliant. What they look like is different than an MSP who services solely commercial.
Right.
Okay. Their stack is going to be different. It's going to be all FedRAMP compliant, right? That's just their tools. Their staff has to know the CMMC compliance framework because there are breadcrumbs that have to be left even on like a password reset ticket, something as simple as that. There's a different process, a different approval process. You talk to the POC before you give this person access to this. And if they do get access to this, you need to update the access control policy. And like, there's a little bit more to do on just basic tickets. And so having a help desk staff who knows about those things, well, it's different. It's different. You don't need that with a commercial client. So, and then finally, from like a project management and an account management perspective, that's a higher level engagement and a higher level engineer and account manager who knows the CMMC ecosystem. If they're responsible for supporting a GCC environment, but they've never supported one before, well, now they have to. It just looks different. So it's kind of a higher caliber individual, and your staff needs to be made up of those higher caliber individuals. Right. The processes are different. The documentation is different. The relationship from the point of contact perspective is different. There's a lot more touch points throughout the year. So you have to be running vulnerability scans. We'll go into that on step 5, what happens after I'm compliant. But your MSP has to make that evolution if they want to be able to support you. And it's totally up to the MSP if they want to or not.
Yeah, that's right. Let's stay on step 1 real quick. I have one more question for you. What questions do you think a business should ask their MSP to kind of gauge their readiness with CMMC, if they can get them compliant or if they can't? I think probably a lot of government contractors out there, they love their MSPs. I mean, we've seen this. People are with their MSPs for years. They refuse to change because they're like family. It's like their own staff.
Loyalty in this industry it's awesome.
It is awesome. And it's great to see that. And it's difficult when they the client figures out that their MSP cannot get them compliant. They need to bring in a third party or a different MSP altogether. What are some questions do you think that the client should ask the MSP to see if they're able to support them with CMMC? I think probably a lot of MSPs are going to say, yeah, we got it. We've heard that before.
A lot of MSPs claim to know about the compliance space. I would ask one question. Hey, can you give me the phone number of an existing client who you've gotten there and who you're currently supporting?
Referral.
Just one question. Give me one phone number. If they've done it with one client, then I guess they've probably made the decision that they'd like to do it with 2. So that's the only question I would ask. You don't want to be the guinea pig.
Yeah, you don't want to do it. And then I'd say, to follow up on that, what would be some red flags that a client could possibly see in their MSP that would suggest that they cannot get them CMMC compliant?
I start asking them kind of subject matter questions, just basic stuff if they don't know the basics. So basic stuffs, that would include how many controls are there? How many families are there? There's 14 families, 110 controls, 320 objectives. If they can't speak that lingo, if they don't know CUI, FCI, level 1 versus level 2, enclave, or, basic sort of terminology stuff. Yeah. If you are asking them and they're fumbling over it, well, chances are they probably haven't supported.
Too familiar,
and they probably haven't gotten a current client there either. So, no amount of third parties kind of coming in and trying to help is going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's just cut and dry. I mean, that is what it is. It's a relationship business, and unfortunately, like, relationships have to be put to the test, and that's what it is. So.
Yeah. So that's step 1. Step 2 is the assessment. Let me ask you some questions about that. Well, maybe you briefly explain what the assessment is, the process looks like, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Sure. So, step two in the CMMC journey would be the assessment. You've talked to your MSP, you've kind of figured out if they can shepherd you through this process, and now step two is an assessment. You want to kind of figure out, where do I stand? There's 110 controls, 320 objectives. I need to hit all of them.
Yeah.
Where do I currently stand? And it's a real sobering event. It should typically be done by a third party. Okay, conflict of, ethical conflict. You don't want the people who are supporting your network to be grading your network. So you would want to bring in a third party. Your MSP should likely have a third party. We have our own kind of partner that we bring in, and they run you through a 3-day assessment. And that's exactly what it is. So kind of like speaking real world, what you should expect when you hire a company. One, it's going to cost you 20 to 30K around there. And they're going to spend 3 days with you, probably, and also your management team. There are a lot of technical questions on there, so you're going to want to bring in, whoever you need to answer those questions. And you're going to have a couple 12-hour sessions asking you about your business, asking you about your policies, asking you about little nitty gritty pieces of your business, like what accounting software do you use? How do you access it? Who has access to it? How do you decide who has access to it? How do you log who has access to it? It's just a lot of that. It's annoying, but you need to figure out where you stand. And at the end of that, what you're going to get is 2 deliverables. The first deliverable is the most important. It's called a POAM, a plan of action with milestones. And it's essentially saying, okay, red light, green light. Here's the 110 controls, 320 objectives. Here's the ones that you passed, and here's the slew of ones you didn't. And here's what you need to do to change your red into a green. And that's a POAM. And that's basically a playbook for the next 4-6 months of your life. Is you're going to be turning reds to greens. That's the first deliverable. The second is an SPRS score. That's going to be submitted to PI, which is like sam.gov, associated with your cage code. If you're a government contractor, you know what that is. And that's basically kind of keeping track of your CMMC progress, the maturity of your company. So those 2 things happen really after like 3 days, a week, something like that. And you're off to the races.
So what does a typical CMMC readiness assessment look like?
I mean, it's
like, what does it involve?
Yeah, it's a snooze fest, man. They're gonna assign a person or 2. You're gonna sit on a Zoom call for 12 hours, then you're gonna do it again tomorrow, and then you're gonna do it again tomorrow. What I would prepare yourself for is, and it happens fast. We went through it ourselves, but it happens fast. On day 2, they're asking you, what do you want your future infrastructure to look like in order to handle CUI?
Yeah, it's a big question.
You kind of have some thoughts going in. Okay. Yeah. So I would probably recommend doing a little bit of homework beforehand, deciding what you want. If you want an enclave, like how do you currently handle CUI? Email comes in to whose inbox? Could it come into everybody's? Then maybe everybody needs to move over to to GCC. Maybe an enclave is not the right move for you. If you can't have a clear pathway of how CUI flows through your org chart right now, well, then maybe the whole company needs to go there. If you do, and you only have a handful of people on staff who would ever interact with CUI, well, then enclave is probably the right solution for you. But that's all going to be coming fast in that assessment. Yeah. Day 2 and day 3 are based on an imaginary environment that you're kind of committing to. And the POAM is going to be based on that. So
does that change whether it's level 1 or level 2?
Yeah. I mean, the assessment is based on level 2. Okay. Everybody wants level 2 unless you're ITAR, and then you want level 3. Level 1 is just baseline. You strip it down. It's 14 controls, and it's a self-attestation. Okay. So the government doesn't take a self-attestation seriously. Not saying that you shouldn't, but you're likely never going to be graded on it. So it's just your ability to handle FCI, which is federal contract information. So it's not as sensitive information. And therefore, the level of maturity your company needs to be at in order to process and handle FCI doesn't have to be as stringent.
Sure. What would you say is the most common gap? We talk about this analysis, and we come in, we do the initial assessment. What would you say is the most common gaps you uncover during your assessments of new clients or prospective clients that want to become CMMC compliant?
Honestly, the technical gaps aren't. It's all I mean, it's all varying levels of difficulty. However, I would put the technical difficulties as palatable. You can make the
Yeah.
change in the EDR you use or the mail filter you use or where your files are stored. You can make those changes. You can run vulnerability scans and you're fine, right? Like, take some effort, but you're fine. It's the policy writing and the procedures that are the
Right.
real
The kickers.
kick in the shins.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people don't expect it. I think in order to pass a level 1 exam, you need like 14 policies. And in order to pass a level 2 exam, you would need 2 or 3 times that, depending on what your end architecture looks like. So, and those policies are not a set and forget, Matt. Okay. Those are living, breathing. And when you
Yeah.
get audited, they need to see trails of when they were reviewed. Part of this is, showing that you have continuous review of your policies. How do you
Yeah.
do that? Well, you actually have to review them. You have to edit them. You have to have versions of it. You have to have proof that you've been doing it. You have to have calendar invites with attendees on it that say, hey, these 3 people in management met with me to review my access control policy back in June, and then again in July, and then again. And it's just, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the policies become the real shocker for most.
That's right. What would you say a company should do in order to get ready for their initial analysis or initial assessment?
They should think through how they currently handle CUI. Okay, if they want to bid on a contract that contains CUI, work chronologically from there. How are you receiving that CUI?
Yeah.
Who, org chart it out. That's what I would recommend doing. Look at your
Yeah.
org chart, see who, like, individuals or roles are responsible for receiving this CUI. And then once you have it in your SharePoint library or wherever, who has access to it and needs access to it. Excel sheet, who's in there, monkeying around with this Excel sheet. If it's design files, who's in there, working on design files or specking something out or quoting something in the sales cycle, like who's interacting with that CUI, and then how are they getting that back out to a vendor or back to the government themselves, the prime themselves, or subcontractors. So, how are they, how are they call it ingress, egress, but how is it egressing out of your network? So think through that CUI process and try to limit it. You want to just try to limit it as much as possible. Really limiting scope it should be your goal, among your top goals. Limiting your scope of what the eventual audit by the C3PAO is going to be looking at. You want to be limiting that. So,
how long does that usually take? The initial analysis?
A couple of days, man. I mean, it really shouldn't take over a couple of days. If you're talking to a vendor and they're like, yeah, we're going to be, doing a series of meetings with you over the next 2 months to figure, like, dude, no. That is such a long time. It should really be a couple days.
Yeah. So now I think that's a good segue going into step 3, remediation of the POAM. Talk briefly about what that is, what it looks like, and then I have some questions for you about this one.
Sure. So this is the most boring, but also like the meatiest. You need to actually turn reds to greens. You need to actually do the POAM in order to accomplish, pass 110 controls and 320 objectives. You have to do the stuff. You have to do the stuff. So, and this is not going to be done on your own. Likely, this is going to involve your MSP, which is why step 1 is important. So, if you need to migrate your SharePoint and your 365 to GCC, you want an MSP who has done that before and managed the GCC environment. Or if you want to set up a VDI, you want an MSP who has managed a VDI and set it up before. So yeah, that's the stuff I'm talking about. You have a mix of, talking about remediation, a mix of project work, introducing a new technology, a new way of doing business and handling that CUI that's going to pass these controls. And then you have to train your staff on it. And you have to write all the policies about it. What I would recommend strongly, we are a Vanta partner, so I'll do a little plug for them. We did a lot of research on GRC tools. That's governance, risk, and and compliance tools. It's basically a project management, policy management application that, all your CMMC stuff is contained within this. Your policies are there. All the supporting evidence is there. The artifacts are there. Everything's kept in there. When the auditor comes in to audit you, you grant them read access to this, and everything's in there that you need to pass CMMC.
Right.
Highly recommend getting one. There's a bunch out there. Future Feed. We chose Vanta. I liked it the most. It had the prettiest interface, but it was also the most expensive. And the reason being is because it allows for integrations, very powerful integrations. It integrates with Azure AD. So like it syncs with your access control. It syncs with SentinelOne, or it syncs with a whole host of tools that are live evidence of you meeting these standards. So,
okay.
For that reason, it also allows us as your MSP to kind of do the stuff for you.
Yeah, that was my question. Is how involved is the MSP in that? But entirely, right?
Client comes to us and says, "Hey, for control 3.7.2, I need a vulnerability scan. Actually, that's 3.14. But I need a vulnerability scan. Can one of your guys do it?" And they'll just assign one of our technicians who's a member in Vanta, and we'll just sync that integration. Yeah. And boom, there's your evidence right there. So it is very much, and that's the same thing with clients with SOC 2 audit. It's the same thing, ISO 2700. So it's all, it's a bunch of frameworks.
Cool. Talk about the POAM. We hear that term a lot. What exactly is a POAM? And what role does it play in this remediation process?
A POAM is a plan of action with milestones. Okay. It is your playbook. It is how you're going to go from where you are right now to where you want to be. You follow that POAM, and you can be confident that you are prepared for a C3PAO to come in, audit you, and give you the rubber stamp saying that you are CMMC compliant. That's POAM.
Cool. And how much time do you have for those to complete them?
Once you submit your SPRS score, you have 180 days technically to complete that POAM. Now that POAM, it's like I said, step 2 is that assessment, and that assessment is based off of a hypothetical future environment that you're like, hey, right. I think that we want this enclave in GCC. I think we want to, that's the move. That's what we're going to do. And then as you go through it, you're just like, well, actually, you know what? Like, turns out that enclave still leaves my workstations in scope, and that kind of sucks. And I want to limit the scope. So why don't I set up a VDI?
Yeah.
So the POAM could change a little bit. It did for us. That's exactly what happened with us. That's why it came up. But yeah, we set up a VDI because it knocked out half the controls. So that was an easy one. Well, why would you not do that? Another plug right there.
There you go.
If you're looking to limit scope, you should strongly consider a VDI. So virtual desktop. Okay.
Let me ask you real quick about delays with this remediation. What would be like, what task would technically or tend to take the most time to remediate?
It's the policy writing, man.
Yeah, always policy.
It's the policy writing. Yeah, which is why, again, I would strongly advocate to a GRC platform. They usually will have policy templates. We provide this to our clients. It's like almost, I don't want to say it's a must have, because you can certainly do it without it, but I don't know why you would. It'd be an exercise in pain. So yeah, I would recommend strongly that you work off of policy templates. It's almost like fill in the blank at that point. So
yeah. So I had a question for you. Starting like crazy. I had a question for you. How important is documentation versus the technical fixes during the remediation? It sounds like the documentation is almost everything here. The tech stuff sounds like it's almost easy to do in comparison.
Yeah, because like, watch this. Like, let's just say that your policy, it's let's say it's a disaster recovery policy or an incident response plan. Okay, that's kind of a meaty one, and you have to kind of run through documenting what would you do if this incident happened.
Yeah.
Okay. You could write a lot of words there, You could chat GPT that. This is what I would do if I got breached. This is what I would do if I got,
Yeah.
hacked. This is what I would do if I got a ransomware. You can write all you want, but implementing that policy,
Yeah. It's a different story.
it's a different story because it's important to remember we're going to get into this in the next step, which is the actual audit. But it's important to remember the end goal here is to prove to an auditor, a stranger, that if this thing happens, I'm
You're good.
prepared.
Yeah.
And from their perspective, you're guilty until proven innocent, which means it's not enough to say, I will do this thing. Okay, show me screenshots of when you took yourself through this and how it played out. And I need dates and timestamps because they're not going to believe you. I mean, a real basic example would be a password policy. Like that would fall under access control policy, right? So password policy says that I have MFA. Okay, prove to me that you have MFA. Show me the last 30 days of logs where Authenticator challenged these users.
Yeah.
Okay, show me a log where you put in the password wrong 3 times and it locked you out. That's what your policy says it does. You see what I'm saying? So even something as granular as that, you're guilty until proven innocent. It's super annoying, just unbelievably annoying, Matt.
It sounds like we talked about an FSO earlier, and maybe we're getting into that too early, but having somebody on staff too that's like dedicated to this task. And we talk about the org chart and who should be assigned to this and who should be in scope and out of scope. It really sounds like, as far as the MSP is concerned, it helps us more if a client they need it. If the client has an FSO and a team assigned to this.
Yeah, an FSO is, and you can dress an FSO up or you could dress it down, but somebody on staff has to be responsible for spearheading this.
Yeah, they're the point of contact.
Yeah, because there are certain things that an MSP can certainly lead a horse to water. Let's just say part of that incident response plan is QuickBooks gets hacked. What do? That might contain some FCI on it, like you have order forms from Andrews Air Force Base or whatever. There are specs within your CRM. Your CRM gets hacked, right? Well, here's the design files of Hangar B in Andrews Air Force Base. What are you doing about that? And like we can, as an MSP, advise you, but you ultimately, as the client, have to make a decision over, who has access to what.
Yeah.
We always follow the policy, this is just like blanket. I'm sure most people do, of least privilege. Okay. Like you should aim to implement the same. Is least privilege means like, I'm basically going to give everybody no access and start from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when should a company feel ready to move to the audit stage, step 4?
They should, any GRC platform is going to give you like a progress bar or whatever. If you run a government contracting business, this is just speaking to the business owners out there, really, because it's ultimately your decision when you sign up for an audit. Because you could spend $30K on an audit and you can fail, you're not getting that money back. So it's a business decision. You personally should feel confident. At that point, and not before, you should try to get on a C3PAO schedule, but not until you feel confident. So you yourself should have whoever you need to on the phone, your MSP, your security vendor, your internal FSO, or whoever's been leading the charge internally. You need to get them on the phone, and nobody leaves until you feel confident. So have them give you a walkthrough of, if you use Vanta, if you use FutureFeed, but whatever your GRC platform is or whatever policies you guys are, folder structure that you guys have, walk through the policies yourself, because you yourself are ultimately held responsible for any False Claims Act. So if you're found non-compliant, it's just on you.
Yeah, it's up to the owner. Is there a mock audit that a client of Network Depot could do?
Yeah. And I would strongly recommend it. Again, kind of like you don't want to spend 30K on nothing. So I
Sure.
would recommend a mock audit. Most C3PAOs, C3PAOs, by the way, are businesses. Okay. They are private businesses. They're not branches of the government. Yes. Like the cyber AB and, um, the government ultimately is the one in charge of certifying them as a C3PAO. However, they are private companies. They are here to make money. Okay. They should probably be offering two products, a mock audit.
Mock
Oh
audit
my
and the
God, I
real
get to make
audit.
money. And then a real audit. Oh my God, I get to make money again. So they usually offer a mock audit, and I would take them up on it. So
What's the cost difference? Is it half? How much does it cost to do a mock
depends
audit?
on the C3PAO. We have two partners, one of them local out of Bethesda that I like, Bethesda, Maryland. And I think there's like 20% cost savings. It's not much because it's still like they take it. I sat through a couple
It's
mock
a heavy amount
audits
of
and
work.
they take it pretty seriously. I mean, they want to prep you. They're going to run it. They're going to run it. They're going to run it live. So
Yeah.
they're not nice.
Not your friend.
It's a little bit more friendly than a real audit, but
Yeah.
they're there to prep you. They're there to grade you.
Cool. So let's talk about the actual audit. We've talked about it. I think it kind of explains itself what it is. They audit you against the standards. What can an org expect on the day the C3 PAO shows up at the door? Day
They
one.
so the C3PAO is busy. Okay, it's going to be down to business. Step one, well, before the audit even begins, you need to grant them access to your policies. They're going to be doing some homework beforehand to prep for you. So they're going to want to see your policies. They're going to want to see all the supporting evidence. They're going to want access to all the stuff. Okay. And I would recommend that if you use a GRC platform, great. They've probably heard of it. They've probably been in it. They probably can work their way through it. If not, make sure that your evidence is in kind of like I call it a binder format. They should go to 3.1.1 and it should say, see page 6 of this, see page 4 of this, see page 3 of this. Like it should tell them where to go. Okay. It should be like a glossary. And they're going to want to go family by family through all 14 families. They're going to go control by control, objective by objective. And they're going to say yes, or they're going to say no. Say, hey, where's the evidence for this? I'm not seeing it. I checked here. This doesn't really cut the mustard. So,
Yeah.
I would expect, take some energy drinks. You're going to be on your,
on your feet.
Yeah, you're going to be on your feet. You're not going to have everything. Yeah. And even if you do, they're still going to be like putting you on the spot. Hey, where is this?
Of course.
Where is that? I couldn't see this. But yeah, I meant to say this, Matt. The first thing that C3PAO is going to do morning one of your audit is they're going to say, show me your network diagram. And they're going to hover. If you're to focus your time on anything, it would be your network diagram. Remember, you are talking to a stranger. They don't know you. They don't know your business. They don't know what contracts you're bidding on. They don't know anything about you.
They don't care. Yeah.
No, they know nothing about, your line of business app that your cousin built in the basement 15. They know nothing about you. Okay. So they have one piece of paper to operate off of, and that is your network diagram. And it should show a CUI. This is the in scope section. This is the piece that you're grading. Here's how and should combine a network diagram with a CUI flow chart. So this is how CUI flows through this network diagram. That's important. Like that is, if you get that wrong, the whole audit is compromised.
Yeah. So step one.
Yeah.
Network diagram.
Network diagram. Yep.
What other evidence and artifacts would they ask for day one?
I mean, the couple that I've sat through, they've bitten off the access control family first. It's by far the largest control group.
So just go top down. Network diagram, access control.
Yeah. And it depends on your environment too, because I've sat through a Prevail one and it was different than sitting through a VDI or sitting through a GCC. It was a different order. So for different reasons, but The VDI one goes so smoothly, guys. I would strongly recommend a VDI. I know it's like, if money was no object, you should do a VDI. Well, then, you should consider it. It's on the table. You should consider it, especially if it's a limited scope, if it's like a couple people in your company. So
Cool. What happens if an auditor finds an issue? What happens with the certifications part of that?
That's a really good question.
Do they auto fail you? Yeah.
Dude, this speaks to a larger issue that I didn't expect. Auditors are subjective.
Wow.
I didn't expect that. I thought it was like a Scantron. You pump it in, you get a pass or fail.
Strict set of standards.
It is a strict set of standards, but it's like some auditors lean, more lenient.
Yeah.
Some auditors lean more friendly. Some of them are like big Microsoft shops. Some of them are Prevail shops. Some of them, it is subjective. So
auditors are like English teachers, is what we're saying.
My mom's an English teacher, so
hey, look,
yes, but it is. Right? It's like, okay, like who decides if I get an A or a B? This one person, it's like it is a bit like that. So, yeah. But to answer your question directly, what happens when, not if, but when you come to a control that you don't meet? For some reason, you forgot to upload that document, that screenshot. It's stuck in, whatever, right? Yeah. Exactly. For some reason, the C3PO stumbles. Most C3POs are going to say, "Okay, give it to me like right now."
Yeah.
If you're able to produce this, give it to me right now. If you're like, "Oh, we got to huddle up. We'll bring that tomorrow." Fine, they're going to be fine. It's in the it's in the audit window. If you fail too many, because people fail. So if you fail too many, it's game over. It's game over. You failed. Get back on the schedule.
Yeah.
So
how long is that schedule? Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a government contractor out there, you already know this, but you're not alone. Okay. There's hundreds of thousands of government contractors in the US. And I think the latest stat was there were like something that's like fewer than 90 C3PAOs in the country for like 100,000 government contractors trying to get this. So
yeah,
you can do the math here, but you're going to be waiting in line. And for most of our C3PO partners, it's 3 months, something like that.
Okay. A few months.
3 months. Yeah.
And then how long you're on the schedule? Let's say they start Monday. How many days does it take, assuming everything goes fairly smoothly, to go through the audit and complete it start to finish? Couple days. It
doesn't even really matter how big your org is. I mean, it's the same principles. So a couple days.
10 staff, 1 million staff, a couple days.
The only thing would be is if you had like a warehouse or like a physical location that they would have to come and inspect. Because like one of the families is physical protection, right? So if you can't prove something remotely and they need to go boots on the ground, well then okay, that might take a little longer, but
just travel time. So less than a week, a few days to get it done.
Yeah. Cool. It's 110. It's like I've done a lot of things that are like more than 110 things, So it's like it's not like the most amount of bullet points. Yeah. They're just complicated to check off.
How does the MSP support the client during those couple of days? I mean, what
should be attending? I mean, they should really be. There should be a rep from the MSP on every phone call. And if they're not, like if the MSP is billing for that time, like one of our clients were billing for that time, obviously, and they didn't want to pay for a week block of a Network Depot rep to be on that call. So they'll just kind of make bullet points of action items that they bring to us at the end of the day and say, hey, what's up? I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that, or whatever.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's it for step 4. You want to move to step 5?
Yeah.
Final step. So this is long-term play. You get compliant. What happens now? Before I get into that, I want to bring up, Chris had an awesome example like 2 weeks ago it's like buying a new car. Brand new BMW, you buy it, that's not the end. You need to renew your warranty. You need to keep, the oil changed, change the tires.
Yeah.
You got to keep it nice. It's not just a one and done purchase. It's the same thing with the audit. So you
Yeah.
become compliant.
I bought a BMW back when like I started actually, having a career in my early 20s or whatever. I bought a BMW and everybody was like giving me advice saying, oh, well, the cost of the BMW is up front, but then you also have the maintenance cost is
Yeah, the
more
maintenance
expensive.
costs. Well, they
And
don't
me
tell
as a
you
young,
about.
I'm like a 23-year-old, 24. I'm like, get out of here. Who
Yeah.
cares? It's just maintenance costs. Well, it matters. There is a difference between maintaining a Toyota, which I had a Toyota Corolla,
Yeah.
to a BMW. The cost of maintenance is unfortunately a little bit more. Your monthly cost is a little bit more expensive. It's a nicer freaking car, right? It takes better gas to begin with.
Yeah.
So, has synthetic oil, so you don't have as many oil changes. But yeah, it is very similar to that. Okay, keeping an organization compliant is more complicated than a normal MSP commercial client.
Yeah.
And that delta has to be accounted for. So it's a little bit more expensive of an engagement with your MSP. At least it should be if they're pricing it correctly. So there are certain things that they have to do and hold your hand through, and certain tools that they have to use, more expensive tools that they have to use, more expensive people on staff, a higher touch point with your account manager, with your project lead, than otherwise you would have. They have to review the policies with you. They have to be doing tabletop exercises, vulnerability scans, pen tests, like you name it. There's a whole bunch of things that have to happen with a compliance client that don't really even exist with a commercial client.
Client. Yeah.
So staying compliant, obviously it's easier than getting compliant, but the work's not done.
Yeah.
And of note, every year, okay, so let's just say that you're going after level 2, CMMC level 2. You pass the audit, and then every year you have to self-attest that you are staying compliant. So the C3PAO told us that they're not looking for you to, claim that you took yourself through an assessment. They want to see the record of you actually putting yourself through an audit. Wow. They want date, they want all the policies reviewed. They want time and date stamps. Like they want to see that you actually did it. So that's year 1, and that's year 2. And then you go back for the C3PA audit every 3 years, and they're going to look at the prior 2. So it's not over. You still have to do work. And then most certainly you have to do work on your anniversary.
What role does MSP play in helping the business stay compliant between those certification cycles? Year over year, they have to re-audit. How does MSP keep them compliant?
I would say that MSP plays a role. I don't want to oversell. I don't want to undersell, but I don't want to oversell it. The MSP's role in maintaining your compliance is more so based on the higher level of technician and engineer who you're going to be working with on the day-to-day. It's more so the account manager is, at least for us, CMMC certified. The tech lead is CMMC certified. The whole tech bench is Microsoft certified and Apple certified. Like it's just a higher level of MSP that's required to keep you living in your new world. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for that reason, and the higher touch points, it's just going to cost a little bit more. I mean, we're talking about like a normal commercial client is $200 per user per month, somewhere around there, kind of like industry average. This should be like 300. Okay. And you get tool sets along with it. So, it should work out to somewhere around that, if you're an average government contractor.
And what trends are you seeing or changes in the cybersecurity world should companies maybe look out for that might potentially impact their CMMC requirements in the future?
I would say most government contractors I talk to are DoD. Right. However, the governing body for CMMC is called Cyber AB Accreditation Body. Cyber AB explicitly says that CMMC was built for all arms of the
Oh,
government.
that's right.
So it's starting with the DoD, but it's built for all arms, which means it's not a matter of if, it's when this comes to affect you.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Nonprofits, schools.
yeah, I call it the trickle down effect, but,
Yeah.
you know, even talk to your cybersecurity insurance company. Okay. If you have cybersecurity insurance, you call them up, say, would my premium go down if I were more secure? Most cybersecurity companies would have a baseline just to get insured.
Yeah. I've seen that a lot.
So
Companies don't even get
if
it.
the insurance companies are telling you that they won't even insure you unless you
Yeah.
meet a certain standard, and the government is saying you can't work with me until you meet this, it's all coming at you,
Yeah.
And so rising tides and then rising regulations. It's it's a world that we're all going to be living in, is a very cyber aware world. We're behind too. Like, let's just note here, the US is behind in this. Russia, Korea, China, they are all ahead of us in this. So we're playing catch up. Uh, and so if I were the federal government, I'd be moving pretty quickly on
Yeah.
this. This is like national security threat, like,
Yeah.
and it's a whole industry. The cybersecurity industry is larger than any other industry combined, dude. Like,
Yeah.
and you throw AI on top of that, which means it's just accelerating. So this is not something that you want to sleep on.
Yeah. Well, we know that Katie Arrington, I mean, she helped write CMMC,
Mm-hmm.
the new system of this administration. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all coming. It's already here,
Yeah.
and the floodgates are open now.
Yeah.
Floodgates are
Yeah.
open. Last question for you on this step. What would be like an ongoing practice that would help an org stay compliant or stay audit ready year round rather than just once per year? Talk about like the hygiene of that. Like how do they just stay compliant each day?
Yeah. This is again kind of where it goes into like somebody on staff should likely be anointed
Yeah.
FSO or chief security
Compliance officer.
officer or whatever. It's good to have somebody in house who is responsible for the security of your environment. And the reason I say that is in MSP, we can give advice all we want, but when it's advice coming from the outside going in, it looks like sales. It looks
Yeah.
like I'm trying to sell you cybersecurity, whatever, right? Like this gadget and that gadget. And you're just like, whoa, pump the brakes there, MSP. I'm chill with cybersecurity. But when it's advice that's coming from someone on staff, a salaried employee, they have nothing to gain from doing this. It's not a sales pitch. This is just the way we do business now. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's optics, personally, in my opinion, it's optics. But, if you get an email from your MSP that says, hey, we need to do this, that, and the other and set up conditional access and MFA, and we need to put you in Intune, and we need to, lock down your AD to least privilege. We need to lock down your applications to mobile application management on yourself, blah, blah. It's going to be like, no, MSP, I'm going to ignore you. You're just trying to sell me something, right? But if that identical email came from someone internal, well, you'd probably give it a read. You probably have a meeting about it. Maybe not on a Monday morning, but you might have a meeting about it, and then you might have some traction, and then that might become your future security posture. So, yeah, that's my advice.
Cool. Well, those are the 5 steps. Is
Yeah,
there anything else you wanted to add, Chris?
I don't think so. If you have any questions about this, give us a call. We know a lot about it, so I think you'd be in good hands. So, yeah, no more comments.
Cool. How can we reach us? networkdepot.us. Contact us.
Yeah, you want to do like a short like AI blurb real quick?
All right, let me do it.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to reach out, Network Depot, networkdepot.us, you can go there, contact us, talk to us there, book time with me. You can book time with Christopher. Both of us are available to talk to your company about becoming compliant. What does an audit look like? All this stuff. We can customize it for you. Free consultations through us. So we actually should charge for that. It's actually insane that we're doing that for free. But we do. So there's the plug. networkdepot.us. You can find us there.
Cool.
All right. That's it.
Sweet deal.
Sweet.